information. So I think we need to get the answers to those questions before we can come to any firm conclusion.
I'm struck by the treatment that Carter Page has received in the press. Here's a guy who's not been charged with any crime. There's no credible evidence he betrayed this country. He's been accused of treason by his own government and spied upon, and yet the reservoir of sympathy for him seems very shallow. No one seems to care. Why is that?
Because in our partisan world, the presumption of innocence only applies to your side, not the other side. Democrats and people on the left forget the presumption of innocence. They're prepared to argue that a search warrant is proof of guilt, or an indictment is proof of guilt. For example, the indictment of the 12 Russians, who will never be brought to trial, is taken as containing the truth. They're just allegations. It may very well be that they're guilty, and we know there was intrusion or an attempt to intrude on the election, but we have to remember the presumption of innocence. It doesn't only apply to your side of the political spectrum.
That's exactly right. You really are the last liberal in America, and I'm glad that you're here. So recently, the creepy porn lawyer, the guy who's representing Stormy Daniels, said he knows about the contents of taped conversations between Donald Trump and his lawyer, Michael Cohen. You pointed out the obvious. If he knows what's inside, then he's able to obtain sealed information, and that's bad. Here's how you described it.
I do know there's more tapes of President Trump. There's multiple tapes of President Trump, number one.
How do you know there are other tapes involving the President of the United States? Are you privy to what was seized from the office? That's a very important question. I wish you'd answer it.
Well, Alan, I'm not going to answer your question because I don't have to answer your question.
If we're right, then you have access to information that's supposed to be sealed and supposed to be secret. How do you have that information? Well, you know, I've already answered it by... Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, do you think he has the information?
Well, either that or he's making it up. Look, he also accused me, to deflect from my very hard question, he accused me of making false predictions, whereas all of his predictions are correct. His major prediction in May was that President Trump would resign. We're waiting to see that happen. I predicted accurately what the Supreme Court would decide in the travel ban case. I predicted accurately who President Trump would nominate to the Supreme Court. All of my predictions have come true, and almost none of Avenatti's predictions have come true. Also, the American Bar Association had an article recently about the ethical concerns that lawyers and ethics experts like Professor Stephen Gillers at NYU have about Avenatti's conduct. So I think basically his conduct speaks for itself, and my predictions, look, you know, I wrote a book. You mentioned it before, The Case Against Impeaching Trump. In my book, the predictions are all in there. Anybody can read them. Anybody can see that I've been straight on. I've been accurate. The reason I'm accurate is because I don't have a partisan dog in this fight. I just call them as I see them. And sometimes my predictions help one side or help the other. But I'm not trying to make self-fulfilling prophecies the way Avenatti and others on the extreme side of this are making self-predicting, self-fulfilling prophecies. Let's wait to see if President Trump resigns, and if he doesn't, put Avenatti on the show. Confront him with that prediction. He not only made a prediction, he said, I guarantee you that President Trump will resign after hearing what Rudy Giuliani said and what Avenatti said. It's total nonsense.
We've invited him many times. So far, this is the only show he won't do.
We'll have him on.
Professor, thank you very much.
Have him on with me against each other. That's good.
Anytime. I would love that. Thank you very much. Well, in the wake of our reporting last week, the White House announced it is pursuing a revocation of security clearances for John Brennan and other former intelligence officials.
Not only is the president looking to take away Brennan's security clearance, he's also looking into the clearances of Comey, Clapper, Hayden, Wright, Cave. The president is exploring the mechanisms to remove security clearance because they've politicized and in some cases monetized their public service and security clearances.
Just minutes later, Jim Clapper, who is a liar, complained that this is all deeply unfair because he has a right to a security clearance. You can't take it away. Here he is on CNN.
This is kind of a petty way of retribution, I suppose, for speaking out against the president, which I think are on the part of all of us, are born out of genuine concerns about President Trump.
reason they have it is in the past we have always extended it to people who were in these kinds of positions because they were of benefit to the government. Not because they were a benefit to themselves, but because the government could use their assistance during a transition or anything like that. Clearly, they're not benefiting the government right now. They're not benefiting this administration. But the second question, especially when you talk about Clapper and some of these other Congress. So it's interesting to me, why do they even have this extended
From the Stone
clearance
I agree.
when they have already lied to the American people and they have lied to the institutions that represent the American people?
To the Congress, and I don't understand why you all didn't hold him in contempt or prosecute him. What he did seems to me to be illegal. But leaving that aside, these guys work for cable news networks. I mean,
Come on, dude.
much like I am, they are paid to talk on television. Wouldn't that disqualify them right there? Or do I get a security clearance too? Or what are the rules here exactly?
That's a terrific question. So, like I said earlier, they have the security clearance to benefit the government. The moment that they start receiving money for the information that they have, the moment that they start monetizing
Screw off
the
with the
information that they have
ads.
received from the government, they should no longer have the security clearance. And it's something that in this new age where we have cable news, where you have people moving from government to